Hello. Hey, Juan, it's Ed Flynn.
Hey, Counselor Flynn, can you hear me? It's
Yeah.
Candace.
Oh, hey, Candace, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for being here, Candace.
Oh, you're welcome. I don't have a list of everyone who's supposed to be in the Zoom room.
The two people that are testifying are Chris Carter and Nigel Jacob.
Okay, they're here, so I'll move them over.
Okay, I think that's all that's testifying.
Okay.
Yep, that is correct. Thank you, Counselor Flynn.
Okay, thank you, Chantel.
Hi, Counselor, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good to see you, Nigel, and good to see you, Chris. Thanks for being here with us.
Good to see you.
Hey, Counselor.
Hi. Hey, Candace.
Hey, Counselor.
Hey, Candace. Candace, it's 1:02. Am I able to start now?
Yes, you're all set. We're live on YouTube as well as live on TV.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Candace.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending. This is City Councilor Ed Flynn. I'm the chair of the Committee on City and Neighborhood Services. Today, we are having a hearing on docket 0117, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $125,000 in the form of a grant, 2019 Bar Fellowship, awarded by the Bar Foundation to be administered by the Mayor's Office. The grant will fund leadership in organizational development in the Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics. This matter was sponsored by the Mayor. The Office of New Urban Mechanics is our city's civic research and design team, and they experiment and build and tackle various issues such as civic engagement, education, infrastructure, and equity. I want to thank the City Council staff, central staff for helping, including Candace and Juan. At this time, our panelists are Chris Carter, who is the co-chair, Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics, and Nigel Jacob, co-chair, Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics. This hearing is being recorded and live streamed at boston.gov/citycouncil-tv. It will be rebroadcasted on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, FiOS Channel 964. The Zoom link to provide public testimony for this hearing can be found by emailing juan.lopez@boston.gov. Please make sure that your Zoom handle is your full name. When you are called, please state your name and affiliation, residence, and limit your comment to 2 minutes. If you are unable to provide testimony today, you may also submit written testimony or a 2-minute video for the record by emailing the committee at ccc-cns@boston.gov or filling out the form on our website within 48 hours following the hearing. I will first let my colleagues offer opening statements. I know several are running late, but because of that, I'll go right into the testimony from the panelists from the Office of New Urban Mechanics. After that, I will let my colleagues offer questions and comments as well, then call for public testimony. At this time, I would like to open it up to Nigel or Chris to provide an opening statement.
Thanks very much, Counselor. Thanks for inviting us here today. New Mechanics has been the city's civic R&D lab for a number of years. And I think that, we've tried to bring a spirit of creativity and experimentation, or at least to support a spirit of creativity and prototyping to local government, to Boston City Hall. And we were very fortunate to be awarded this fellowship grant from the Bar Foundation. We've worked with the Bar Foundation over the years, and I think they began to be aware that, so usually this particular fellowship is offered to nonprofit leaders and nonprofit organizations as a way of encouraging sort of the next generation of leaders and organizational development in the nonprofit community. With this grant, as far as I know, this was the first time that a public sector organization has been given this grant, which was hopeful for us because it suggested that the philanthropic community is beginning to realize that local government also can serve the role of being change agents in cities. And so the grant was intended, these grants are generally intended to support the leaders of the organizations in career growth and to sort of give them some time to consider the future of the organization. But the bulk of that money is really in itself to do whatever it needs to explore new territory. It might be new kinds of business models or new kinds of services offered to their constituents, whoever they are. So that's how we find ourselves here. Originally, the grant, they've had to change the terms of the grant a little bit given last year. So they've added another year on to the program. So it'll actually be as far as I know, they're not going to be offering, so they offered every couple of years, and so they're not going to be doing a 2021 class. They will just carry the current class of fellows through that term as well. So the funding, we have a range of ideas of how to use it, but we don't have a lot of specifics at this point. But obviously we're happy to go into any of that or into new mechanics more generally, if that's useful.
Thank you, Nigel. Chris?
I don't have too much to add to that. I think Nigel covered it incredibly well, so happy to leave time for questions that you might have, Counselor.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Nigel, and thank you, Chris, for the presentation. What are some of the challenges that or issues your office would like to tackle in this new year?
Well, there's a lot of, as you know, a lot of big items that Boston government has to handle or deal with or respond to in 2021. I think obviously finding ways to support vaccine deployment in an equitable way is a big issue. Not easy to do, but we're sort of engaged closely with a variety of different departments that are dealing with this issue. Everyone from food access to the health commission to transportation, and thinking about how can we, in general, the way we work is to bring a different perspective to the challenges that we're working on. Obviously, all these other vertical departments, transportation or BPS or whoever, they are the experts in those areas. But because we have this flexibility where we can work with a variety of different organizations, we can often engage or get involved in these projects from a different perspective, maybe one that's about tapping other resources that the city has access to, maybe partnering with, higher ed or schools more generally to sort of deal with these kinds of issues. So I think the big issues, as I said, are vaccine deployment and response generally. We're also engaged in an effort to kind of turn ourselves into a little experiment in terms of thinking about anti-racism. So we're trying to find an external partner with some of that funding to help us rethink what we do from the perspectives of being an anti-racist organization within broader City Hall. So that the hope is that once we gain some insight in how to do that effectively with a team of 9, we can then work with our sister agencies to figure out how we can help them do similar things. And many of them are already doing this, but often the way that we do our work is to treat ourselves as an experiment or as a prototype in local government that we can work with other agencies to try the same kinds of things out. And beyond those kinds of issues, I'll say that we are often engaged by various departments in thinking about how do we think about data and new technology in furthering the goals of the city. How do we make this a more equitable city using data and technology, from whatever perspective. So, we often end up working with the streets cabinet or increasingly with public safety in figuring out how do we use new sensors, new gadgets, there's a lot of people that want to try robots out on the street and these different things. And oftentimes we'll get brought in to help those departments figure out how to what to do about those kinds of new business models and companies.
So, Nigel, just want to follow up the $125,000 grant that will be used for leadership development
Mhm.
for your staff. Is that correct?
That's right. That's definitely a part of it. And the way that this is usually worked in the Bar Fellowship is to secure a coaching organization. There's a lot that's unclear about how government engages in the Bar Foundation. So obviously we're not structured like a nonprofit, right? Because we're not a standalone organization. We're a unit within a much larger bureaucracy. And so, the things that work for, Commonwealth Kitchen may not work for us in terms of organizational development. But, one of the things that is hardest to do in local government is to do sort of professional development for team members. And so, we're looking, this could result in training of one kind or another for some or all of the team, that kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you. We're also joined by my colleague, Councilor Liz Braden from Alston and Brighton. Thank you, Councilor Braden. Let me follow up with that answer, Nigel. With the challenges that the city currently has, what type of communication improvements do you think we could make in terms of reaching residents that might not have access to a computer, might not be fully engaged in Wi-Fi or
Right.
I have a lot of constituents in my district, many immigrant constituents that are not fully engaged in the digital equity.
Yeah.
And what would your team be able to do to help more residents, especially immigrant neighbors and residents in public housing?
Mm-hmm. So excellent question. So usually the way that when we get engaged on a particular topic, the first thing we do is to do a little bit of research, not research in terms of like as academics, but really try to understand what's been tried so far, what's working, what's not working, and what are the issues on the ground, and how do we get closer in trying to understand the issues. And so I think the first thing that we would do might be to reach out to some sort of immigrant serving organizations, or we could partner with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement. And we do know that this is an issue, and we've heard this several times, but really try to understand, like, what is the gap? You know, obviously translation is an issue, but it's often not the only issue for a lot of sort of newer Bostonians. And so, you know, we would spend a short amount of time, you know, maybe a couple, 3 weeks, trying to understand like what the actual gaps are. And there might be new things that we could do, or it might be about doubling down on things that we're already doing and maybe just improving the outreach. So usually the way we start is to try to understand the problem a little more deeply.
Thank you, Nigel. At this time, I'm going to ask my colleague, Councilor Braden, if she wants to ask a question or giving an opening statement, either or both.
Thank you, Councillor Flynn. I apologize for my tardiness in arrival. I was coming from another meeting. I'm just happy to listen and learn at this point, and if I have any questions, I'll raise my hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Braden. How many, Nigel, how many employees are in your department?
So in a way, it sort of depends on how we're counting, but in general, we say 10.
Okay.
So there's some of us, we're split up. If you look at the budget, we're actually spread across a few different departments. A few of us are housed, are organizationally housed in Docket. A few of us are formerly within the Mayor's Office, and a few of us are in the Department of Neighborhood Development. But we work together as a heterogeneous team. But so that so as a result, we all will refer to the Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics when we're doing the work.
Yeah. And I know I had a conversation, Nigel, with some residents on Oxford Street today in Chinatown, mostly immigrants, and they were asking me about, you know, their Wi-Fi system. You know, they're having many challenges, but what would the Office of Urban Mechanics, how would you relate to them? I know you mentioned that you'd reach out to the Office of Immigrant Advancement, but with advanced technology, a lot of residents don't even have the basic technology at this time. How, and I know you're working with Docket, but how can we make sure that more residents are engaged? And a lot of these households have little kids that are in the public school systems, and they were telling me that when they're on Zoom, you know, there's problems because there's not enough Wi-Fi there, power there. So what type of interaction are you having with Docket that can help address those issues?
Well, I mean, you've actually sort of referred to the kinds of things that we would do, but when we're for something, a situation like this, we would look at who is currently serving that particular population, and as you say, sort of Docket controls our public Wi-Fi network, but there's also Boston Public Libraries, Boston Public Schools that provide Wi-Fi services. There are also third-party organizations that the city works really closely with. We work closely with and have worked closely with nonprofits like Technology Goes Home, Timothy Smith Networks, and some of the big providers like Verizon and folks of that scale. And so I would imagine that there is a way of understanding the specifics of the geography and understanding, are there any city buildings close by? It might be a question of understanding how the network is being used at that location by talking to our friends in Docket. But we try to leverage, whatever possible. We don't necessarily we don't try to do new things for the sake of new things. Obviously, we try to add value by, sometimes it's about stitching other things together, right? Because often it's hard for one agency to do what needs to be done in oftentimes. And so it often helps when there could be this sort of a facilitator like neuromechanics to kind of, bridge a gap or understanding what how can, the existing services be brought to bear, and oftentimes training is often an issue, right? So this is something that we've heard many times for even folks that do have access in one way or another, even if it's poor access. The question of what you do when you're there on the internet is also a question, and so there's a lot of issues. But I do think that we do have, in general, the resources at our disposal to be able to help. And when I
So
mean the city of Boston,
You're also looking at problems in a new way to solve them, but also to look at problems to see how we can improve that coordination between
right?
departments, but working together, whether it's with advanced technology, in looking at a problem maybe in a unique way. Is that accurate?
You got it. That was a good pitch, Councillor.
Okay. Yeah, when I was doing some research on this, Nigel, I wanted to make sure that since we're on television, that residents would want to know about what urban mechanics, what they do. And that's why I was asking some of these questions. So I wanted to take the opportunity to learn more about your department, because I know it would be informative for our residents across the city as well. So thank you for allowing me to ask some questions that might be unrelated to the grant itself. So
no, we appreciate the question. I think we often have struggled with how to find the right way to make our existence known. So every little bit helps.
well, thank you, Nigel. Thank you, Chris. I'm just checking to see if any of my other colleagues are on. I'm just going to ask if Councilor Braden wants to give a final comment, or if not, that's okay. Councilor Braden?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Braden. I also want to say thank you to Juan. I want to say thank you to Candace. I want to say thank you to my staff as well. I want to say thank you to Nigel and Chris and the mayor's office for helping coordinate this.
Counselor Flynn, Counselor Bach did just join the meeting.
Okay, that's good. Good afternoon, Council Bach. Council Bach, would you like to ask a comment or a question to either Chris or Nigel?
Thanks so much, Councillor Flynn. As you can see, I was mainly listening into their comments just because I am in transit right now. But I just wanted to express my strong support for the grant and for the work that the New Urban Mechanics do every day, and excited about this opportunity to build their capacity. So thanks so much. Thanks to you for chairing and to them for being here.
Thank you, Council Bach. Candace, do we have any public testimony?
We do not know.
Okay. So again, thank you to Chris, thank you to Nigel, and at our next city council meeting next Wednesday, I'm going to recommend that we vote in favor of this grant for $125,000 to the Office of New Urban Mechanics as part of the outreach on leadership and development related issues. I want to say thank you to Chris. I want to say thank you to Nigel and my colleagues from the council. And at this time, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Counselor.
Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you all.